And then 1 Timothy. 1 Corinthians and then 1 Timothy. Let's get there. So I had something totally different ready to preach. Totally different. And about last week, and Brother Ross does this sometimes. Last week, Brother Ross, he goes, you know, Brother Joe, for the split session, he said, I want you to preach on something else. He said, I want you to preach on, and these are the two things that he said. He said, I want you to help prepare the young people for adulthood, number one. And number two, I want to help the older. Now, you are, but sometimes it's hard to believe. Because I remember being at camp, and I remember some of y'all when you were like really teeny.
Oh, yeah.
Like I could have held you, okay? Because I'm aging myself, it's gray hair coming in. But y'all are the older ones now. You are the high schoolers. You are the big, I was going to say big kids. You are the big ones on campus, all right? Okay, and so you have influence. And Brother Ross asked me not just to help you get ready for the future, but also, okay, I feel the warmth. How many of you start to feel it? Feel right here? Not yet. Look back. Feel it right here. It's a little bit long, so hopefully it comes out. Last year when I preached it, my hands were freezing. I couldn't even flip the page. So you all, Brother Ross wants me to help you through God's Word to help the younger kids in the youth group who happen to be over there. And you have influence. So we're going to talk about two things here that I think, now, how do you get people ready for the future and help you to help the younger ones all in one sermon when I already had something else ready? We're going to try to do it here, and I think God gave me a passage right when Brother Ross hung up. I said, okay, and a passage came to my mind that I think will help, and it's not the one we're about to read, but 1 Corinthians chapter 13. 1 Corinthians 13, and you got about 20, 25 minutes, got some time here. I may get some time for question and answer if you want to afterwards. Okay? Let's see. If you look like you all start falling asleep, questions? I'll probably cut it out. I'll probably cut it a little early, but you ask some questions, but we can't go up too early, because Dan will still be preaching. Okay? How many of you, be honest, you didn't start packing until last night? Oh my goodness. Monday in high school, you're supposed to be mature and ready to go on top of things. No? Okay. How many of you did not finish packing until at least 11 o'clock? How many of you didn't finish packing until at least midnight? Anyone pack past 1? Okay, well, you guys are good. You're going to fall asleep on me here. I know it's a long day, so we will try to keep us awake. Let's look at 1 Corinthians. 1 Corinthians 13. I'm going to be very practical here. The Bible says in chapter 13, verse number 11. Verse number 11. The Bible says this. It says, when I was a child. When I was a what?
Child.
The college ladies have a term they use. You don't have to be under 12 years old to be classified by this term. All you have to do is do things that classify you by this. And this is the term, Miss Jasmine, you would know this because I have personally heard, I think I've personally heard you. I have heard you. The funny thing is, you think you're referring to yourself in this context. But they say, oh, so-and-so is such a child. Use that sometimes? Something along those lines.
No,
they are
such
such
a
a child. No, I didn't have to talk about a child. Now, there comes a point where you should transition from being a child to where someone looks at you. They're 16 years old, and they say, he's still a child, to an adult. Now, how does that happen? By the things you do. By the way you live. You can't say, well, how many push-ups do you do altogether? Over 100 push-ups. My goodness, how many guys? You did about 102. Just because you can do 100 push-ups does not make you not a child. You say, oh, but I've got 6-pack. Well, some got 1-pack, okay? 6-pack. I got muscles on my muscles, and it doesn't make you a man. Ladies, we don't dress up. Okay, just do my makeup, dress like a child, do my hair like a child, doesn't make you an adult. And so this is what he said. He said, when I was a child, what's that first word? And so apparently there's some terminology, there's some words that classify you as a child by the way you speak. I spake as a child. I understood as a child. I thought as a child. He says, but when I became a man, I put away childish things. I'm just going to park here for a minute and then we'll get on to the second part. Well, we live in a day and age where it's okay to be a child forever. I had a man, Brother, you know him. Most of you do not know him. He was a teacher in the high school when I didn't even go to junior high yet. Y'all still don't know who he is. He called Brother, he called me a month ago. Oh no, a couple months ago. He said, "Can I stay in your dorms? I'm tired of living with my mom." He's like 50 years old.
He was my teacher.
Was he your teacher too? He was never my teacher. He was gone by the time I got there. So George, you help oversee the guys' dorms. Would you accept a 50-year-old man who's been living with his mom for how many decades because he wants to grow up and he thinks that the dorms is the platform to do that? No. I graciously called him back. I said, I will give him one phone call. But I called him one time. It wasn't going to happen. He called me back. I mean, he rapid fire called my phone. He called and he called again, he called again, he called again, he called again. It's not going to happen. Get over it. 35, 40-year-olds living by themselves in their mom's basement, playing video games. But George, you sent me a link the other day. The New York Knicks. He said one thing harder than beating the Celtics is to get my players to stop playing Fortnite and go to sleep so they stop losing games. They get paid millions of dollars to play basketball, but they're squandering their opportunity to be winners because they can't put the video games down, so they're playing Fortnite. He said that's harder than getting them to get ready. He said harder than getting ready to play the Celtics is trying to get them to go to sleep because they're playing Fortnite. Is that not what the article said? New York Knicks coach. He's talking 20, 25, 30, 35-year-old men. I mean, these men will bench press any 5 of us. Like that. Okay? We're talking men. See what happened? They've never learned to put away childish things. Now, let's go to 1 Timothy. 1 Timothy chapter 4. 1 Timothy. This is going to be very practical. I'm going to give us a couple of things. How can we prepare in 2 areas? Number 1, how can we put away childish things and grow up? Prepare for adulthood. Prepare for life. But also, how can I help the younger people? I think every one of these points will help us in both areas. Again, very practical, nothing earth-shattering. Look, I'm preaching tonight. We'll have a couple of illustrations. We'll preach away. This is going to be a little more practical. But there it is, 1 Timothy chapter 4. And let's see, someone volunteer to read for me. 1 Timothy chapter 4. Brother George, thank you. Can you read verse 12?
Let no man despise thy youth, but be thou an example to believers.
He says, stop. I'm sorry, stay standing there. He says, just because you're young, and this is written to a young man who the Apostle Paul wants to have influence. What's that word? Influence. Say influence. Influence. What's the word? Influence. Influence. He wants him to have influence. He wants him to grow in the faith. He says, I want you to be an example. Go ahead.
But be thou an example of the believers in word, in conversation, in charity, in spirit, in faith, in purity.
Now we're going to talk about those words right there just for a few moments. And I want us to ask ourselves, am I still a child in these areas? Or am I being an example to the believers? Because you as high schoolers, you are an example. And as you go, so goes the youth group. And so, let's speed it up here. Number one, be an example in word. In word. See, what's that? That's the way you talk. He says, be an example. I have a question. If everybody in the church looked at you and talks like you, and somebody off the street walked into our church not knowing it was a church, would they know it was a church? Say, what's the point? Yo, what's up, boo? Homie? I don't get how, but it's funny. Cool, lit, and hot can all mean the same thing, right? Right? They're different eras. One thing, Brother Bach, that's really burdened me is I think in our school and our college, we've really allowed the words of the world to taint how we talk. It's tainted. We're no longer an example. You know who the example is? The rappers. The godless Hollywood stars. The godless, immoral, fornicating actors. And yet, I'll be honest, I'm in my office. I'm giving away my secret. I hear, outside of chapel all the time. I hear conversations that go up. Shut the HEC up, HECK up. What the HECK? Look it up in the dictionary. HECK, you get the right dictionary, literally means hell. It means hell. So what's the difference? Why don't you just say the real thing? Why are you being a hypocrite?
It's good.
When you grow up, he said, don't let anybody despise your youth. You might be young, Timothy, but let me tell you how people can see you as a man. Don't let them despise your youth, because if you are an example in your word, you'll be the right example. They're not going to despise your youth. So I'm tired of being treated like a kid. Stop talking like one.
Good.
You're not a rapper, not an actor. Go back to like one in conversation. If Jesus was sitting there and he said something I didn't like, would I say, what the HECK? If Jesus was there, would I use all the terminology of the world? Say, no, of course not. Yeah, you would. He's already there. I wasn't planning on getting serious. I was actually just going to be very light. But I think it needs to be said.
Amen.
Because I walk through our hallways, and I hear us outside of our chapel, and I hear us waiting for music class, and I hear us passing by in lunch break, and now it's crept into the college, and I hear, and if I did not know you were Christians because you're enrolled in our college, if I walked in off the street, I would have no idea that you name the name of Christ by the way you talk. Come on now. Let's talk like Christians.
Amen.
Growing up, getting ready for adult life, and being an example. And by the way, you know what you're doing. You are teaching the next generation what you do in moderation. And I've seen it, Brother Black, get worse and worse and worse. What you do in moderation, they're going to do in excess. They're going to do more than you do. What legacy are you leaving in our church youth group as high schoolers? In word, number two. In conversation. I think you have a place for notes. I encourage you to take notes. In conversation. Say, what's that? That's how I live and what I live for. It's my behavior, my lifestyle. I got a question. What are you living for? What are you living for? If the thing that thrills you the most is leveling up on Clash of Clans, which is probably outdated by now, on Fortnite, getting the new gear, reaching a certain kill status, what's the new Call of Duty? What is it?
Super Mario.
Don't worry, nothing to me. Whatever it's called. Now y'all want to say it, not me. I don't know. Look.
It's called Black Ice.
Okay, the new Black Ops. How about
Black
that?
Ice.
I remember when Black Ops first came out. Okay, it was really cool. I remember when Modern Warfare came out. Okay? I remember Call of Duty 2. Y'all don't even know how to play video games. In the trenches, it's all pixelated. If the biggest high of your entire week is when you dominate the evening on Call of Duty, that is so lame. That is so lame. Put away childish things. Now, I'm okay with recreation. I'm not saying it's sinful to do some of those things. Look, I do some things for recreation. If I have a day off, I like to go fishing. Okay? There's a nice spot out by Pomona I like to go hang out with my family. It's really nice. We can do it all day. My mom said, what do y'all want for Christmas? I said, I want a year membership to that spot so I can go there all year and I have to pay $75 every time we go. And so there are things that we do, that's fine, but if that's what you live for, you're a child.
Right.
The way childish things. Let's be an example. Again, nothing wrong with some of these things, but let's not let it be what we live for. Number three, in charity. How do you talk? What do you live for? Do you love? Of course, we're talking about an appropriate kind of love. Okay? I'm getting ahead of myself. Someone tell me, what are the two things that the world laughs at? If you're in any worldly conversation, they laugh at two things. One of them you might not want to say, that's fine, I'll give it to you. But what are the two things that the world laughs at? Go ahead.
Purity.
Impurity. And what's the other one? Ragging on people, put people down, right? Watch any show. The majority of it's going to be, if it's worldly, it's going to be ragging on people and sexual impurity. Now, we'll talk about the second one when we get to purity. But we talked about this in my office not too long ago. You showed me an email, right? Okay? And even as leaders sometimes, I'm guilty. Brother George, I'm guilty of it. Instead of loving, we're constantly tearing people down, tearing people down, ragging on that person, making that person feel like an outcast, getting on that person. Let me ask you, do you love like Christ loved? You say, well, that's not a huge deal. I really shouldn't love. That's not very macho. Here's the thing. Love God and love your brother as yourself. Those are the two greatest commandments. This is what the Bible said. Every single verse in this book can be hung on two things. Love Him and love each other.
Amen.
And yet, how often do we put each other down? I had a college student in my office, and I knew he was struggling, and he said, hey man, come in here, what's going on? He started crying, and he started, now, I've seen my kids cry, I've seen other people cry, but I think in the last year, I don't know how many times I've seen a college student sit in my office and cry. I'm talking about the men. And he cried, and I said, well, what's going on, man? He goes, I'm bitter. I was really bitter. He said, I know I shouldn't be bitter. He said, but, and he called out, one of them was a youth leader, not Brother Russ. One of them was a youth leader. A couple guys in the youth group. He said, man, for years, he said, I've never said, I try to keep my cool, I just act like, I just roll with the punches. He says, you know what? He goes, man, they mess with me, they rag on me, they think that I'm incompetent. It's worldly. That's not exemplifying the love of Christ. That's what children do. Move on the way up here. Now, maybe your children are perfect. Was there any time, and maybe not, because maybe you had some people, I know my children do. Was there any time on the way up here when you're driving around with your kids, put each other down?
All day.
Try to grab stuff, push, push out of the way, try to make themselves look good, try to get the other one in trouble.
Yep.
That's what children do. The Bible says there comes a point where we are supposed to be examples in charity. Young people start looking at you like a mature person in Christ. Exemplify love. When everyone else is ragging on that kid, go sit by him.
Amen.
When
Amen.
everyone's trying to make her feel like an outcast, you leave the crowd and say, that's not the love of Christ. I'm going to go sit with her and make her feel like she has value because Jesus Christ valued her enough to die for her.
Amen.
We should make her feel like an outcast. In charity.
It's good.
It's in word. In conversation. In charity. Next, in spirit. In spirit. Oh my, this is a good one. One thing I appreciate about Brother Bot is it can be dead in the room. Brother Bot comes in, it's alive, right? It's happening. Now, everyone else might not think it's happening, but because Brother Bot's there, it's happening, right? I was talking about college. You probably walk into Genesis class sometime, like, man, these people are dead. They ain't gonna get me dead. And throughout the entire class, it's happening, right? And so now, the Bible says, number 4, in spirit. In the spirit, how's your spirit? You say, what's that? That's my inner man. Some of us, the only thing colder than that white stuff outside is you when you walk in the room. It's like, oh, here she comes, drama mama. Oh. I know there's going to be something. My wife and I used to laugh. There are some ladies in our class, I'm not going to give away who they are. They couldn't live without drama. One lady, she goes, I can't wait to see my grandkids. It's been years, like 10 years. She always prayed. 5 years, prayed. See my grandkids, see my grandkids, see my grandkids. Christmas, she finally got to see her grandkids. I said, how are the grandkids? She goes, too crazy. It's like 5 years. You prayed to see your grandkids. Look, have a good spirit.
Amen.
Have a good spirit. Remember number five, in faith. in faith. See, what's that mean? How's your faith? Do you live like you believe there's a God? Some of us, with our mouths, we're Christians, but with our life, we're atheists.
Right.
See, what do you mean? Well, I don't know. Do we have a relationship with God? Do we ever talk about spiritual things with our fellow brothers and sisters in Christ? I have a question. Do you read the Bible? Consistently. Now, we're going to talk about that a little bit more tonight. But the reason why a lot of things don't resonate with you is because the reason why you're still a child in so many areas is because you're just not walking with God. You don't have a real faith that moves you to action. How's your faith? When's the last time you went up to somebody in the youth group and just started a spiritual conversation? You might want to try that. And by the way, if you want to see, man, it's funny. The wrong crowd always comes around me. I got a quick way. You know those fly swatters, like that, okay? Or you know, like repellent. You spray something on yourself and they all. You know, like a light bulb, you flip it on and all the roaches. I'm not calling them roaches or anything like that. But if you want the wrong crowd to get away real quick, start talking about spiritual things. That'll separate the men from the mice real quick. Try it out sometime. When was the last time you walked into a group of your friends and talked about spiritual things? I remember at Camp Matashi, the very last time you were ever at Camp Matashi, we were a senior, you and I were in the same room. I don't know if you remember that. We moved all the beds, we put them all right lined up next to each other, and we were telling stories all night long. But one thing I appreciated when we were in the youth group is we could sit around and we could talk about end times, we could debate about the Bible, we could talk about preaching, and we could look at our sermons. And by the way, let's not lose that. You say, well, we've already lost it. Man, get that thing back.
Yeah.
Come on, man. Let's be people of faith. Let's talk about the things of God. Let's be people that love God, that read God's Word, that have a relationship with Him. Number six. Maybe we'll have about 10 minutes of question and answer because I'm going to get done a little bit early. If we go out there, we're just going to be stuck with it. Impurity. Let's make sure that the conversations of the world in impropriety and impurity doesn't affect our conversations. We said this already. The world laughs at two things: making fun of people, putting people down, and sexual impropriety. Let's not do that. Here it is. Let's make sure our speech is pure. No locker room talk. It belongs in our Christian school. It doesn't belong when your friends come over to your house. By the way, I was going to say when you go back to your dorm, when you go back to your cabin tonight, let's make sure that our speech is pure. Let's make sure that we are examples in purity. By the way, get ahead of myself for tonight. Let's make sure our entertainment is pure. Some of us, stuff that we watch on YouTube, come on now. Let's make sure that we're an example in purity. Let's make sure that our thoughts are pure. One question. Almost done. How's your thought life? Guys, when your mind wanders, where does it wander to? Is it pure? And I understand we have to cast down imagination and all that, but if we were to pull down this projector screen right there, and we had a projector back there, I said, Miss Jasmine, hit play. And if all the thoughts that have gone through your mind in the last week, the last month, went up there, would we see a thought come and something push it out of the way because it was cast down, or would we see you dwelling on impurity? I don't expect you to tell us, but it's a question we need to ask. Are you an example of purity? Look, you're almost adults. I'll close my Bible. Okay? 10 minutes for question and answer, Brother Bot. If there's a good question or two, I might refer to you too, okay? Let's be an example. In word, in conversation, in charity, in faith, in purity. Alright? People are looking up to you. You're the high schoolers. Let's get ready for life in these areas. Let's be an example to the younger ones in these areas. Let's not pray. Anyone have a question?